All right, we are live. Cartoonist Kayfabe Ringside Seats, and this is our brand new show, the Saturday Sessions. This is a chance for us to talk to creators that have books out right now, books that are fresh, hot off the presses, and are coming to you either from Kickstarter or from them directly. Today, we have a brand new Kickstarter that just started the other day, if I'm not mistaken, and we have its creator, Ringo Award-nominated Brenton Lengel. What's up, Brent?
Hey, happy to be here.
Great. Good to have you, man. So we're talking today about your just amazing book here. It's about the amazing man, Bonaventura.
Yeah. Buenaventura.
Buenaventura. All right. Yeah. And I've got the link, Durruti. And I just backed it on Kickstarter. I got the Avengers variant.
Oh, that's awesome. This is one of my favorite covers.
Nice. And the book is called Durruti, Shadow of the People. And so this is a true story based on this revolutionary anarchist in Spain. So tell us a little bit about, and in the video on the Kickstarter, you say he's one of your favorite people, a very inspirational historical character to you. So tell us about why you chose him, and then a bit about his amazing life.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you, by the way, who don't know me, my name is Brenton Lengel. I'm a playwright, Ringo-nominated comic creator, author of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse.
Oh, nice.
That's what got the 2 Ringo nods in 2020, and we're about to have our first trade. So this is actually my second series. So I started out in New York working as a playwright, and beat my head against the wall in the New York theater scene for 10 years, which got me a lot. But one of the things while I was doing that was I got really involved in Occupy Wall Street because, well, partially because I agree, I had a lot of agreement with the movement, but also because I'm a big believer in method writing. If you're going to write about something, you should do your best to live it. And I had become fascinated with Homage to Catalonia and the Catalan anarchists. For those of you guys who don't know, during the 1930s, Spain's military went fascist and tried to take over the whole country. And one of the places they spectacularly failed was in the city of Barcelona, where the populace rose up against them, led by the CNT-FAI, which was the Confederation Nacional de Trabajo, the Confederation of Workers, and the FAI, which was the Federation Anarquista Ibérica, so the Iberian Anarchist Federation. Their major hero and one of their biggest leaders was a man by the name of Buenaventura Durruti. And I first heard about this guy right before Occupy, and I was he was briefly mentioned in Orwell's Homage to Catalonia, which is George Orwell going on about his history of fighting in the POUM against the fascists during the Spanish Civil War.
Right. So
I was like, who's this Durruti guy? I got to look this guy up. And I started reading about him. I was like, oh man, this dude is freaking cool. So yeah, Durruti started out as a union member and kind of radical activist. His father was a railway worker. His parents wanted him to be an intellectual, but he's like, no, I want to be a mechanic like my dad. And when he was 17, he was striking in solidarity with the Asturian miners, which was a very powerful union at the time. They did a nationwide general strike, and the Spanish king Alphonse XIII ordered government troops to machine gun and massacre the miners so that they could force them back to work. Durruti witnessed this, and then shortly thereafter, received his draft card. And from the king, you need to join the military now. And so Durruti declared that the king would have one less soldier and one more revolutionary. From there, the Asturian miners smuggled him across the border to France, since he was already wanted for desertion. And he would sneak back and forth across the border between Spain and France and sort of do his best as kind of almost a professional revolutionary, kind of a Robin Hood figure. And this led to a number of daring robberies, some assassinations and counter assassinations, because you got to understand, this period in Spanish history is nuts. The wealthy Spaniards literally hunted poor people for sport. I'm talking on a freaking horseback. The sons of wealthy owners they called it Reforma Agraria. You can look it up. They would chase down peasants, murder them, and dump them in a hole. that's the plot of Dirt you wanted, because everybody wanted land reforms at the time. So, this is the world Durruti is living in. And this causes him to do a number of things, including robbing nearly 500,000 pesetas, or over 500,000 pesetas, from the Bank of Spain, which he gives away to struggling families and to buy weapons for the coming civil war, because things are getting absolutely crazy. Wow. He from there, he winds up, things get a little hot for him in France, and he travels to first to the United States very briefly, but only on a stopover on the way into Cuba. In Cuba, he tries to foment revolution, and the Cubans aren't having it as much of it. In fact, I think he kind of left with the impression that these Cubans aren't going to ever revolt. But while he was there, he was working on a sugarcane plantation, trying to organize the workers there. And like the bosses of the sugarcane plantation found out about people being unionized, and they beat the crap out of 3 people that they thought were the union agitators, which was actually Durruti. So Durruti and his friends killed the plantation owner, stole his car, and then headed off to Mexico. Wound up in Mexico. He robbed a textile plant to provide money to start a school. And then he was in Argentina briefly. The Argentinians were like, oh, no. We're going to kill this guy as fast as possible. So then he was sent back to back to France. And he got the opportunity to try and kill the Spanish king, the same Alfonso XIII, who had ordered, the Asturians machine gunned. And he almost succeeded, but was actually stopped and captured, thrown into a French prison. They kept him there for over a month, even though it was illegal. And finally, like, the legal technicality plus the very committed workers movement got them to release him. And sort of that is the beginning of the story with Durruti. That's like where we are in issue 1. Wow. And we still have the entire freaking story of like his battles with the fascists and collectivizing the entire city of Barcelona. So he's one of the most incredible humans that has ever lived. And, like the life that he lived is so varied and exciting that I was just like, okay, I have to understand this. Just so that I can write it and tell the story. And, 10 years later, here we are.
10 years. Yeah. I was going to ask how long it took you to really like kind of, I don't know if you had to, but distill his life down into, you said, how many issues is this run going to be? Is it like,
I haven't timed it out yet. So before I wrote this run, I am a screenwriter as well. So I wrote a 1 hour, or I'm sorry, 1 hour. I wrote a 120 page screenplay. And this covers, I think, the first 10 to 15% of that. So it'll probably break down into 6 to 8 issues, possibly more if I decide to add more content, because there was a lot that I couldn't fit into the screenplay that I really wanted to. And comics give you a little more freedom in that regard. Right. But yeah, so I wrote the screenplay first, and now I'm adapting the screenplay into the comic. So by the end, it'll be a full graphic novel that I will then release as well. And people backing it on Kickstarter can have like the very first issues and get in right on the ground floor.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is like, so it's great to kind of get out there. The Kickstarter is super, there's just a lot of options and it's very inviting. So y'all should check that out. Now, like when you go about writing something like this or go about adapting someone's real life into comics or film or whatever, do you need to connect with their family, or is the nature of his whole thing this kind of like do it yourself, revolutionary thing? So there's not really. So
yeah, I mean, I sort of did it autonomously, but I made sure to, there's some difficulty in that Durruti did have a daughter, Colette, who did survive. It's very difficult for me to find any information on her. She lived in France and speaks French. So, if anyone wants to get me in touch with her or her granddaughter or whatever, I would love to speak with them. There's been some, I'm working with some filmmakers at Enon Films. They've actually optioned the Durruti script, and they're somewhat in contact with the CNT-FI, the current CNT-FI, and the Zapatistas. So there is a possibility of us all working together to kind of get Durruti's story out there, which is really exciting. Cool. But the main thing, I made sure to read a bunch of biographies of Durruti, and I also made sure to involve myself in Occupy Wall Street, which was an anarchist movement, so that I could get a feel for what this is like. Because anarchism is a very hard thing to wrap your head around, especially if you're raised in like a liberal capitalist society. So like it took me quite a while and a lot of effort to really understand this story, particularly since, I don't speak Spanish. And so there were a lot of sources that were kind of closed off to me just from that.
Right. And now, when you think of anarchy, people immediately, I mean, at least I'm speaking for myself, you think of like punk rock and you think of like that type of just like disregard for everything. I mean, and necessarily, is that what it is? What is like the true definition of anarchy, and how is it actually?
So anarchy is separate from anarchism. Anarchism is a political and social philosophy that started with the work of Pierre-Joseph Proudhon and continued and grew out of the more radical currents of the French Revolution. You've got thinkers like Mikhail Bakunin, Emma Goldman, Rudolf Rocker, who, by the way, did meet both of them, both Rudolf Rocker and Emma Goldman met Buenaventura Durruti. We've been joking, actually, because a lot of these anarchists that we're writing about and interested in knew each other. So like, I want to tell, for instance, the story of Nestor Makhno after this. Nestor Makhno and Durruti meet in issue 2. Spoiler. Nice. So it's like we got the anarchist extended universe.
Nice. That's awesome.
But yeah, so anarchism, I think Noam Chomsky kind of put it really well. It's the idea that authority, the burden of proof, is on those who demand hierarchical privileges for themselves or others, that they have to prove that claim, and they have to prove it to your satisfaction, and in fact to everyone's satisfaction. So if you want to be my president or my king or my boss or whatever, it's not on me to submit to that. It's on you to prove that your authority is necessary. So I think that is sort of the idea at the core of anarchism. And then the rest of it is a socio-political movement, specific philosophical and political tradition. And a good way to think about it is not so much rebellion for rebellion's sake, but think about the famous anarchist symbol that everybody's seen, the A inside the O. Anarchy is the mother of order. It's a way to bring about the most free and just and orderly society we can by opposing, let's say, unjustified and dangerous hierarchy.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that was what Durruti was all about. I mean, he's got a number of great famous quotes, but one of them is that he said, I've been an anarchist. He's commanding a force of somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 anarchists. And he said, I've been an anarchist all my life. It would be sad for me to turn into a general and rule men with a military rod. These people have come to me voluntarily, and they're ready to stake their lives on this anti-fascist fight. And I believe in discipline, as I always have, but it must be an inner discipline that is motivated by strong feelings of comradeship, as opposed to, outer discipline where most traditional armies, you don't follow orders, you find yourself in jail really, really quickly. So, it's a fascinating way of organizing people and society, and it's been surprisingly effective as far as its ability to marshal actual military force and to defend people's homes, and lives and property.
Do you think that it was kind of like the idea was kind of just like taken over or muddied in the 80s or the 90s with punk rock, and with people just using it to destroy things?
Yeah. Well, yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, there's a process called recuperation, where society takes a radical idea that is actually dangerous to the ruling class within that society and chews it up and spits it out in a neutered form that is no longer dangerous. A great example of this might be Urban Outfitters putting out Che Guevara t-shirts, Yes. So there's been an amount of recuperation, and part of it has come from the punk movement. And, you see some like Christopher Nolan's Joker identifies himself as an anarchist. That's not anything near an anarchist. He's just
Yeah.
Right. But like, you know, there's that. But also, I mean, the punk scene has in a lot of ways managed to keep the torch of actual anarchy burning. A great example might be the song Spanish Bombs by The Clash. I mean, they really seem to understand a lot of the events with regard to the Spanish Civil War, whereas you have, for instance, the Sex Pistols going on record and telling everybody to vote for Trump. Like,
right, crazy.
You know, so there's good versions of anarchist ideology, and then there's people that are just they know it sounds cool, and we're all sexy as. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're all sexy as fuck. We know it. Sometimes we set shit on fire. Exactly. So like, there's people that will use that to market, and it's sometimes difficult to tell one from the other.
Right. Interesting. Now, I noticed too as well that you got a Spanish artist to work with you on this. Did you find it was important to use someone or to work with someone from Spanish culture, or
Yeah, that was really important to me. Jaime Infante, because he's going to, you know, I can write Durruti by rereading the letters that he's written and by understanding the philosophy and by involving myself in, you know, English-speaking anarchist movement and talking to my friends who are native Spaniards and stuff. But I haven't lived in Spain. I was only there once when I was a baby, and like there's only so much you can do with like Google Earth or watching documentaries.
Right.
So, you know, I wanted someone who understood the culture, who was raised in it and steeped in it and had the visual experience. And Jaime Infante, my artist, is just phenomenal. And it was really funny because, you know, we got set up by my editor, Andrea, and like as soon as I started talking to Jaime, he's like the perfect person to work with. Like he's got connections with the CNT-Fi and stuff. So it's really neat.
So he's interested in the movement, and he was probably as excited as you to bring this story to life in comic book form.
Yeah. And we've been working on it for quite a while. I announced that I was doing it, I think back in like March. And at this point, you know, we finally gotten up and we're, you know, ready to go. We've got the comic is completely done. It's just, I've actually have the final editing proof sitting, and I just need to go over that and get the stuff on it. We're just about funded. Last I checked, we had 99 backers, and I still need one. but
you're super close.
Yep.
I'll check back in here. Let's see.
It'll be fun if there's been 100 in the time we've been talking.
Well, because I just backed it. So, no, it's still 99. Yeah. 99. But yeah, you're almost there. So hopefully if anyone's watching, we'll get you some backers in there. But yeah, I'm super excited. So issue 1 is complete.
Yeah. And issue 1's complete. As soon as this finishes out, I'm going to have Jaime start on issue 2. And, you know, I'll have the scripts for that done very, very soon. I'm also moving forward on some other projects. Snow White Zombie number 5. The art was just completed for that, which I'm really excited. I'm working with Adam Bryce Thomas of IDW's Sonic and Samurai Jack. And he's doing a version based on Berserk, which I think is going to be super cool.
Wow.
So
just real quick about that book. Is it like just what it sounds like? It's...
Yes and no. So Snow White Zombie Apocalypse is Snow White awakens to Prince Charming's kiss 28 days after the zombie apocalypse. The 7 dwarves are dead. The prince is polyamorous, and she is completely dwarfed in power and abilities by Rapunzel, who I will describe as a badass kung fu warrior queen goddess.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's like the 3 of them have to work out this love triangle while trying to not be killed by the denizens of Grimm's fairy tales as they rise from the dead. Wow. What I've been told by critics is that there's a lot more depth in it than you would think from the name. It would be very easy to do like a giant parody, but that's not what I'm doing with that. It's I dive really far into folklore. I'm really heavily influenced by Sandman, both in my storytelling style and also in like the fact that it keeps changing artists. I did that on purpose. Nice. And also that like it sort of fuses dark fantasy, kung fu, 70s kung fu, and like blood, sex, and gender politics.
Nice. I mean, that sounds amazing. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the Facebook. Some people were commenting. Actually, Boneyard Press commented. Hart D. Fisher said said that. Actually, I guess he only said to check out his Kickstarter. But yeah, okay. Shout out.
Sure,
Shout out.
We can check out
Press.
your Kickstarter too. I know. Yeah.
I try to get people, interacting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
J. Andrew World obviously says hi. Manny Gomez, shout out, Manny. What's up, dude? Yeah. All right, cool. I mean, it sounds really fun, and all the different ones like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. These are all like just amazing ideas and so much fun. And yes, most of those are kind of like on the level, kind of like basic stuff. But I love that you're saying you go into the kind of deep stuff. And if you really dig into Grimm's fairy tales, they're not like child friendly. There's eating of humans, and there's burnings, and they're really kind of rough.
Yeah, so like if you there's a supplemental series, it's a 3-issue ash can that I'll probably also release as a regular comic book called Reign of the Blood-Covered King. Notice I'm already sneaking some anarchist stuff in there.
Yes. Yeah.
This is by the way one of the coin, one of the coin premiums we had from that, and as you can see, like half the king's face has been chiseled by a pissed off peasant, so there's a skull there.
Nice.
At the beginning of Reign of the Blood-Covered King, it starts with the peasant in the fields singing a song. And I was like, I need a song from fairy tales. Are there any songs? I don't want Disney songs. I want like a real song from a real fairy tale. And I found one, because there's one, and it's called The Juniper Tree. And I read it, and I was just like, oh my God, this was made for my comic. So He's sitting there singing, and the song, I have no idea how the actual like tune of it goes, but it's like, my brother, she killed me, my sister, she killed me, my mother, she ate me, my brother, she killed me, my mother, she ate me, like chopped up all my bones, spread them beneath the juniper tree, tweet, tweet, what a beautiful bird am I. Wow. Like, I'm just like, okay, cannibalism and bones, that I feel like that really fits my zombie world. So yeah, Swaza is very different from Durruti, but one, they're both my writing, and two, they're linked thematically in a lot of ways, because I have a lot of diverse interests, but the types of stories that I tell, I'm only going to tell a story that I personally find really, really interesting, because I don't want to live in that world as well. Like I was working on Durruti for 10 years. I was working on Snow White Zombie for just as long. And I don't want to live in a world that I don't find really compelling and interesting. Because, even when you're not writing, it sort of takes over everything.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, we got Rapunzel kicking zombie ass with a hatchet and karate and freaking what's it called, a flintlock pistol, and we have Durruti banning fascists from life with a machine gun.
Yes. As far as like your creative process, you were saying 10 years you've been working on these books. What is all going in that 10 years, or is that just because there's so many other things going on in your life?
So no, like usually from the time I get an idea to the time it actually comes out in a big way is about a 10-year process, at least for me. I don't know what maybe that's just my karma. Because like I'm pretty well known for a number of plays, but all the big ones are the ones that have gone on for a while. I wrote a play called North to Maine, which will eventually be a comic, which is the very first play ever written about the Appalachian Trail. I'm an AT 2,000 miler, so I've walked from Maine to Georgia. Wow. And like that, again, was about 10 years from writing the very first draft of the script to getting it, performed in Manhattan. And then similarly, like Snow White Zombie, that one went a bit faster because I wrote the play and got a short version of it produced in New York at the Astro Genius Festival, and then a larger version of it produced the following year in the Fringe. That's where the name Snow White Zombie Apocalypse came from, because the first 10-minute play was Snow White Zombie, play on White Zombie. And then I wanted to differentiate the two. And then when it became a comic, I realized this doesn't make any sense anymore. So I just deleted the colon and made it Snow White Zombie Apocalypse.
Right.
Durruti, I started writing a play that I'd called originally No Gods, No Kings back in 2011 about the anarchists during the Spanish Civil War. And I sort of realized that I didn't understand anarchism enough to write it. And I was just rewriting Homage to Catalonia, like my own version, which is cool. Homage to Catalonia is a phenomenal book. But I wanted to do something new, something that was me and something that was really grounded, because I needed to do this incredible struggle and tradition justice. So, I kind of shelved it for a while and threw myself into Occupy Wall Street and continued to write and develop it. I finished the screenplay in 2015 under the tutelage of a former HBO exec named Stephen Moulton. And then I developed Durruti, Shadow of the People, working with Ron Martz of Green Lantern, Witchblade, and Marvel versus DC. In fact, he gave me a great dust jacket quote, which is on the thing. So,
oh, awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
I love that, man. It's like you're not just writing the book; you're like living it. You're making it for different, platforms. You're starting it as a play. You're developing. You're producing it. Like so all these stories really go through a journey for that 10 years. It's not just like you're knocking around a script for 10 years. It's like you're producing it in one way or another. You're taking it from one media to the next.
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
In the course of writing Snow White Zombie, and I'm super into martial arts. Like in the course of writing Snow White Zombie, like from the beginning to the end of that, like I was earning my black belt in Kyokushin karate.
Oh wow!
So like when I choreograph the fights in Snow White Zombie, like those are fights being choreographed by a freaking black belt who actually knows how this goes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because with Kyokushin karate, we train to do like bare knuckle full contact fights, which my wife won't let me do. I'm getting up there in the years.
Right. But can't heal as fast.
Yeah, but it's I think it's very important to not just write what you know, but don't write what you don't know. And right. So I'm a big believer in like Nietzsche's philosophy of aestheticism, of turning your life into a work of art. And this is sort of my way of doing that. And so, yeah, if there's a story that I'm telling, I'm going to live it as I tell it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I try to do the same thing. I mean, that's an amazing way to think about it. That's the only way that you can really, write something that can move people, is like from your own experiences that have moved you and that have done it. So I love that in order to get in with, to get these stories together, that you actually, you did the Occupy. We did a little of that too. I'm from near DC, so we went there during the whole thing. Yeah. And,
solidarity.
It was wild, man. It was just insane to see the camps. And we actually were doing some traveling because we were like working for a band at that point that was like putting out music for the movement. And then we were traveling all these different towns, and we went from like North Carolina to DC and a few different places. And so that was really like an amazing thing to see. How did you camp out and do all that sort of thing as well? Or?
I didn't sleep in the park. I had an apartment in New York. I had just moved there because Occupy was 2011, I think. It was when it started. So I'd been living in New York since like October 2009. And I knew something was coming. Like I remember there were like a number of socialist protests, and I actually totally dismissed Occupy at first because I was just like, oh, it's another socialist protest. They're not mad enough. I will come back later. And then like I started to see pictures of my friends at Occupy. And suddenly I started to see pictures of my friends getting arrested by the NYPD. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to get down there. And so, I joined the park and the movement, threw myself into it, was, at a lot of major events. November, N17, right after Bloomberg had cleared the park, and we had like between 30 and 50,000 people in the streets in New York. That was incredible. Was arrested at the 1-year anniversary of Occupy. Got needed. A buddy of mine, he wore a Barack Obama mask, or he wore a Barack Obama mask. I wore a Mitt Romney mask, and we linked hands and walked through the police line.
Wow.
And we got about 20 some odd steps, before like this white shirt cop comes and he like shoos us over to the side, and I feel my foot hit the sidewalk, and I'm like, wow, that was some really good policing. Like we wanted to be arrested, but he treated us like we were little kids. Wait, what's happening? Suddenly this freaking sergeant comes running down. Dude tackles me, throws me into a motorcycle, grabs me, martial arts knee smashes me in the spine, and starts yelling like, stop resisting, stop resisting. And yeah, I've been ragdoll since he touched me. So I was just like, I had the mask like halfway on my face. I'm like, I'm not resisting, asshole. No, put the goddamn cuffs on me.
Wow.
And they did. And I remember they pulled me to my feet, and everybody's yelling and like, what's your name? What's your name? And I'm yelling out my name. And you feel like kind of like a rock star when that happens. And as they're taking me down the street to the paddy wagon, I just start yelling the most radical thing I can think of, which was anticapitalista. And yeah, I was in the paddy wagon, spent some time in lockup, and then eventually the case was dismissed because we actually didn't do anything illegal at all. Like, we were being provocative, but we were completely within our rights to do what we did. Right. And the judge agreed, which was really nice.
Right. The officers are the ones who broke the law.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, did they get punished? No, they didn't.
So do you feel like those experiences then made you be like, I need to tell some type of story about this? Like, or do you feel like you were harnessing emotions from that time into your writing of this story?
I mean, not really emotions, but a perspective. It's, when you're raised within a society, you are indoctrinated to believe in the stories that society tells about itself. And sometimes you can't really know what the actual reality is of the situation unless you go against those stories in some way. And, with me, it was getting involved with radical activists and trying to birth a new world, and like that really, just that experience really opened my eyes to the problems with the media, the problems with our justice system, the problems with, just corruption. And that allowed me the kind of grounding to understand what all these old anarchists were going on about, when they were writing around the turn of the century. And then you add in just the historical research that I did on Durruti. There's a great book, Durruti in the Spanish Revolution, by Abel Paz, which is a phenomenal biography, published by, the English version is published by AK Press. And Abel Paz was involved in the Spanish Revolution when he was 15. So, he was right there on the ground. Homage to Catalonia, another like really key book to read. That's George Orwell's firsthand account of also banning fascists from life with a gun, and then getting suppressed by the Stalinists. Like all of this sort of came together into a way where I was like, okay, I understand Durruti. I understand this period. Now I can tell this story, and so I did. And the book is the outgrowth of that. We're hoping, like Enon Films has optioned it, we're hoping to do that and another film called Wanderer's Feast about Durruti in Mexico, that I think will be a really interesting art house piece. And that's sort of that's the germination of this series, and why I'm just like so excited that this is finally happening. Because like a lot of stuff has gone into it. One of the premiums we're giving out actually is a handmade anarchist bandana, which this is the actual handmade anarchist bandana I got at Occupy Wall Street, and my wife and I will be making the ones ourselves. So,
nice. Guys, get in on the Kickstarter. I put it in the comments there. So issue 1, so the Kickstarter right now is just for issue 1 with
correct
tons of add-ons and stuff like you said, like that. How long do you think it'll be till issue 2?
Couple of months probably. Okay, Jaime draws very quickly, which is exciting, as does Gushina Anna, our Russian colorist. She colors really well and very, very quickly, which is not what I've been used to. Been used to my artists taking a really long time to get their stuff together because it's really good. And their stuff is really good and really fast. So
it looks really good. Definitely check out the preview pages on the Kickstarter page, because the art is interesting and I hesitate to use the word fun because of the subject matter, but like it is like fun art. It is like art that you want to follow and continue looking at, and is colorful and engrossing.
Well, what's important about that, by the way, is like, so me as a writer, but also kind of like who Durruti was and his personality kind of comes through in the pages, and it is a fun thing. Like one of my favorite bits in the first issue is they're sitting there like up in front of the judge, and Francisco Escaso, one of Durruti's friends, is like whispering to Oliver as these guys are on trial for their life, and he's like, "Hey, have you heard what the papers are calling us, the socialist ones? They're calling us Los Justicieros." And he's like, "They're calling us the Avengers? That's a terrible name." And that's true. Like Durruti's one of Durruti's first anarchist books was, or one of his first anarchist groups was the Avengers, literally in English. So I think technically Buenaventura Durruti was the first Avenger.
Wow. All right. So that's why you did the like Avengers variant cover.
That's why the Avengers variant cover is there, and there'll be some more of those. I want to do one interposing. I've got Carl Moline of Frey and Rap 666, and we're going to do one where we kind of interpose Durruti with some classic Captain America stuff. Nice. Captain Anarchy should be really fun.
Dude. I think a Kayfaber has a Captain Anarchy something.
Oh, there is.
I can't remember if that's right. I'll find it and I'll just send it to you. Still though, it's like you can do that. Well, that's awesome, man. This seems like a very interesting project. I'm super excited to have backed it and to get behind it. Is there anything else you want to say about the book, or anything else coming up that we should keep an eye out? And then where can we keep in touch with you?
So you can just Google me. My name is Brenton Lengel. I'm the only one in the world. My website is brentonlengel.com. You can search Durruti Shadow of the People on Kickstarter, and please give. We got about 25 days left. We're about to hit our $6,000 goal. It would be great to exceed that, because anything that I get is going to be rolled over into the further issues, and you also may get some additional stretch goal rewards. I'm very good on making those, and they're really cool usually. I showed you earlier the Prince, or the blood covered king coin. We also have a Prince Charming coin, and just to see the detail in these kinds of things, like I had a seal for the kingdom created that has an evil boar and unicorn on it across a sort of a raven that has like freaking tentacles, like it's a like it's an H.P. Lovecraft thing. Wow. The motto on the coin is like Omnes una manet nox, one night awaits us all, which is the real life version of Valar Morghulis. The front is we've got Amor Vincent Omnia for Prince Charming, and for the king it's Regius Carnem Sanguinis, which is love conquers all, and Regius Carnem Sanguinis is royal flesh, royal blood. So like I said, the same thing on the backside. So I've also created like 12 tarot cards from the major arcana for Snow White Zombie, and those are the kinds of stretch goal rewards that will happen if you guys just give me a bunch of extra money to do cool shit with. So you'll get similar stuff for Durruti if and when we get funded and overfunded. The other thing that I have coming up that's really exciting is after Durruti, and while we're working on the next issue, I have another issue being created. My artist just started on Kit Buss of Critical Role. She's Critical Role Season 1 artist. She also does a series called Cloven Bloodlines. She has done some variant covers for me, and she is going to be doing interiors for my next series, which is a comedy called NPCs, about the lives of non-player characters in role-playing games. lives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this starts off, it's a young woman named Gwendolyn the Vanquisher. She's the lead character in her own kind of Mass Effect, really more Dragon Age style storyline. And just before the climax of her story, she takes an arrow to the knee and has to get a job selling potions to other more important heroes. There's tons of video game humor in it. And like in one of the episodes, I don't know if anybody watches Game of Thrones, a little show called Game of Thrones, but
right, heard of it.
Yeah, there's a version of what's his face, Pedro Pascal's character, Prince Oberon, goes into the shop and gets talked out of buying a helmet because it looks dorky.
Nice.
Which, of course, if you've watched the episode where he fights the mountain, you know what that refers to. So I think that series is going to be really fun. And the fact that it's Kit Buss, who's got the critical role in Dungeons and Dragons connection, I think, like, yeah. So with me, basically, like, as a writer, you're going to get a bunch of cool historical stuff and cool fantasy stuff, along with martial arts and some really hard-hitting action sequences tend to be all mashed up, and it'll come out in varying levels depending upon what series that I'm doing. There's another series that will hopefully come out soon called Berserker, which is set in Iceland in the year 997. And once I find an artist for that, it will be grim and frostbitten and like, you know, I think that one will be a really fun one. It'll be like Game of Thrones in real life. That will be like almost like yet another marriage of history and the fantasy shit that I really love.
Nice. And like, you know, back issues of all this stuff is available on your website or?
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, not on my website. So if you want to get back issues of Snow White Zombie, I'll send you the link. You can put it on the video later. It's available on BackerKit right now. And I would actually tell people to get them soon, because I am down to the last 150 copies of Snow White Zombie #1. This is with the original Scout Comics cover. Scout is sold out of this. My own editor can't get them, and we are not doing another run of them. So once these are sold, they're sold. And I think I have the last 150 copies, which you can get on the backer kit for Swaza #4. When I launch my Snow White Zombie trade, my first trade, and for Swaza #5, there will hopefully be some available through that Kickstarter as well. But once I sell out, those are gone. So, and then of course you can also get back issues of Snow White Zombie on the Durruti Kickstarter. So if you pledge to Durruti, and you can add on back issues of Snow White Zombie, and I discount them. So like, just because I want more stuff going to that campaign at the moment. So yeah, you can totally grab those on either on the backer kit or on the Durruti Kickstarter.
Nice. I'm gonna have to go back and add that on myself. That sounds super awesome. Well, thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much for joining us on our first Saturday sessions. It's been a lot of fun chatting with you, y'all. I hope you go out and back this Kickstarter. I'm super psyched for it, because you're getting a little more out of your comics. You're getting a little bit of history, and you're learning a little bit about, you know, a movement that changed a country's, you know, government dynamics and, you know, the future of a whole country. So yeah, I mean, the Durruti and the Spanish anarchists are the reason Franco didn't instantly take over the entire country. I mean, this is farmers and factory workers armed with handmade bombs and antique rifles stopped the fascist war machine dead in its tracks. And they were led by a bank robber, blacksmith, and modern day Robin Hood. Like, yeah, that's insane. I'm sorry, that is objectively cool. It is, yeah, and like a solid elevator pitch that you didn't even have to write. It just exists there already.
Yeah, because that's amazing.
Yeah, great, dude. I love seeing these amazing stories from our past brought to life, and especially in comic book form. But I mean, I'd be psyched to see the movie as well, man.
Great. Well, yeah, I'm very excited to see the movie. Best thing to do is to, you know, pledge to the Kickstarter and let your friends know. And yeah, hopefully when the movie comes out and this becomes a huge thing, you can be like, hey, I have the first issue.
I was in on the ground floor.
Yep.
All right, man. Thank you guys so much. And remember, don't just read more comics, be more comics. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your day.
Solidarity.